Well, welcome back to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. Harry Schroeder with you again today. And that young man there, everybody's young to me, is Scott Nagy. He's the new head coach at Southern Illinois for the Salukis. So glad to have him with us today. Scott, first of all, congratulations on landing this. I think it's a great job, and I think it's a great fit for you, an Illinois guy. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, the whole young, I used to be the young guy coming into leagues, and now I feel like I'm the oldest guy in the league. I don't know, but I've been doing it for quite a while now.
Wright State before this, South Dakota State before that, tremendous winning at both of those places. And I stepped back and watched a little bit, of what you've accomplished, and you have done things in a way that people look at your program and see not just winning, but they see people playing the game the right way and players representing their university in what we might call the right way. That's something you're, I know, building and wanting to build as well.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know how you define that the right way. It's just the way that we want to do it. I always tell these young men that we're coaching or recruiting that this whole basketball thing is going to end for them very quickly. And we all know it, but they don't know it. And, our job is to prepare them really for what's coming after that. And, we're trying to win basketball games. We're all locked up into that. Basketball is important. But it's more important to me that they become good husbands and good fathers and leaders in their community, and because this will end and it will end very quickly. And so, we're pretty simple in terms of how we play and what we do, but just probably like every other coach, we have high expectations.
Why was this a good time for you to make the move to Southern Illinois? I know you're an Illinois person, and you spent a long time at South Dakota State and a long time at Wright State. You're not a guy that's jumping around a lot. Why did this make sense for you right now?
I wasn't looking for a job. Really, both times I've changed jobs, I was not looking for a job. And when I went to Wright State, I didn't know the AD. I didn't know anybody there. And for whatever reason, I was on his radar. I was his top guy, and he pursued me hard and convinced me. And it was a lot the same way. I think with this one, I wasn't looking for a job. And, a couple of weeks ago, I got up on a Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday morning, I was on a plane. And I mean, it happened fast, and my head was spinning. And it was not an easy decision for us mostly because of our family. All our children and grandchildren live in the Dayton area. And so a lot of tears, but I think my family knew it was the right move for me. My athletic director there at Wright State retired, and he was a big reason why that was a really good job for me. And again, I wasn't. It's not like because Bob was leaving, I was looking. I wasn't, but it all happened at the same time, and I got a longer term deal here, and I just come into a place where they're just so excited about basketball. And I would liken it more to South Dakota State. We were the show in town, and really in the whole state. Going to Wright State, it wasn't the case. Even in our own hometown of Dayton, they had UD, and right. We still led the league in attendance in the Horizon League, but it just had a different feel because we were so near Ohio State and Cincinnati and Xavier and Dayton. And so we were a small fish in a big pond. And so get to come back here and be a big fish in a small pond. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, the people in Little Egypt love their basketball. You talked about those early days in Division I basketball with South Dakota State when you guys made the transition and the difficulty of winning and losing games in those first couple of years. And I loved your story that you shared at the press conference, or maybe it was with Luke Martin, I forget which, but about how you had to kind of reorient some of your priorities.
Yeah, I was, my whole world was built around winning and being identified as a winner. And, in high school we won, in college I won. My first year out, I go to the University of Illinois, we go to the Final Four. I just been around winning my whole life. And, I wanted people to identify me, like, and I thought of Scott Nagy, he just wins. And So we, going through that transition was a very, very difficult period for me. It really made me question, like, do I want to coach? Do I want to, what am I doing? Because I'm miserable. And, I said that I was just sitting in church one day, and I'm not saying I audibly heard it, but I heard God ask me, do you want to win or do you want to know me? What's more important to you? And it had been more important to me to win above everything else. And not that I still don't battle with it today, because I want to win, but I do think that it helped me. I think that period also helped me learn how to coach, because always before that, we won 80% of our games when we were Division II. We just had better players, and all of a sudden I didn't have better players than the people we were playing. And so I had to learn how to coach better. And so even though it was a very difficult time for me and for our family, as I look back on it, I look back on it with good memories, because it taught me a lot. It helped me realign what was important to me, and it made me a better coach.
True confession. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking at my local church, and I quoted you. I told them that story that you had shared, and I thought that was just a tremendous story. Your players, your staff, you just put 4 guys on the staff, or at least it was announced today. Talk about the putting together of your coaching staff.
Well, it wasn't easy. When I left South Dakota State to go to Wright State, I took 3 guys with me. And, 2 of them were full-time assistants. The other was our director of basketball operations, so he knew how I operated. When I left Wright State, my head assistant got the job, and the other 2 assistants elected to stay, didn't really want to move their families at that point, and I get that. So I was starting from scratch, and that concerned me, because I wanted to have people that had been with me, that I knew, that I trusted. And I'm getting ready to put a staff together that I really don't know a whole lot about. And so we worked hard at it. I met with Jarence Howard when I got here, and it was very clear to me very quickly that he needed to stay. And I've just enjoyed the heck out of him. In the few weeks I've gotten to know him, does such a good job. Everybody thinks he's a great recruiter, and he is. He knows everybody, but he does a great job with the players too. They trust him. And so I thought, for continuity's sake, that this really works out well for all of us. And then we hired Will Veasley, who, played at Butler, played in the national championship game, Illinois State, North Dakota State, UIC as an assistant, fits my personality really well. I feel like just a confident but humble guy. And so we were thrilled to add him. We still have one other a full-time assistant coach to add, and then we kept the director of basketball operations that was here, Justin Ensley. Jarence told me that he's great, coach. He'll be the president of the university someday, and it really, for a while it was just me and Jarence, and all the little things. When you become a head coach, you hardly know how to turn a computer on anymore. Everybody does everything for you. And
sure,
here I was, it's just me and Jarence, and all these things, just little things that I couldn't figure out. It was driving me crazy. So when we got Justin back on board, it really helped me a lot. It's nice to have somebody that knows the whole system already, the school system. So he moves things a lot more quickly for us now. So I appreciate having him. And then we hired Darian Reddick from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, played at Tennessee State, from Belleville, has good contacts there, was a full-time coach there, and he's going to come and be a player development guy for us to start here. But does a great job of that, and just has good contacts, particularly in that St. Louis area, which is an important area for Southern Illinois. And then Tay Gibbs, who was with me at Wright State, is the one guy that came over, and I'm appreciative of that, because he has all our stuff on film, our practices, our games, the clips, just all that stuff. And so it's helpful to have somebody that has been with me that can kind of teach our coaches too about what I'm trying to get done.
Darian Reddick, I remember when he played at Tennessee State, his head coach, Dana Ford, told me one time, I said, "What's he good at?" He said, "Working hard."
Yeah.
He said, "That's his skill. He works hard."
Yeah. And he, very highly recommended, played in the Illinois Jets AAU team and their system. And, so we wanted to interview him just to see what he was like. And he just impressed both Jarence and me. And, we said we got to figure out a way to get this guy on our staff.
It's outstanding. You said in your press conference that your offense is kind of simple. That you're going to run a motion offense versus sets. Talk about the philosophy about why you end up doing it that way.
Well, it's always been my philosophy to recruit good offensive players and then demand that they guard and rebound and do all the tough things. I always say, if you watch young people go in the gym, they don't go in there and do defensive slides and working on blocking out. They're working on their ball handling, they work on their shooting, and there are just some people that have the natural ability to score and to figure it out. And so we like to recruit guys that can handle it and pass it and shoot it, put them at all 5 positions. People in our offense, we don't really number them because we like our point guards to post and we like our post to shoot it. And so we don't worry too much about that in terms of number. That really, when we number you, it's who can you guard? Who can you guard on the other side? And so I always figured if we got good offensive players and we never worked on offense at all, they would figure out ways to score. Good offensive players know how to put the ball in the basket. And then we're going to, good offensive players generally aren't the toughest guys. They're not the meanest guys. And so that's what we got to work on. That's what we have to demand. I think most people would, probably think I'm a more of an offense coach than I am a defensive guy. And it's just the opposite. All I think about is defense and rebounding. But we've always really been good offensively. We've always scored a lot of points and shot a good field goal percentage. Last year at Wright State, we led the nation in field goal percentage. And we were 11th in the country in 3-point field goal percentage. So it was scored 85 points a game, but we were awful defensively. And that was a big frustration for me because we really did have a talented team, but we weren't, we just didn't have the toughness and the grit to be great defensively. And so even as good as we were offensively, it cost us a lot of games, and everybody was frustrated with it. So to me, the offense, we give them freedom. Freedom's earned. It doesn't mean when we give you freedom, you get to take any shot you want and do whatever you want. It doesn't mean we're just going to run up and down the floor and just chuck it up. I mean, we're going to try to get good shots, but I never want a guy jumping up and shooting it, wondering if Coach Nagy thinks this is a good shot, because you're not making those shots. I want guys to shoot the ball because they want to shoot the ball. And I need guys that'll shoot the ball, and I yell at them that's not a good shot, and the next time down the floor, they shoot the ball again. Those are the kind of guys I need to coach.
You came to Southern and you talked about the fan base and all that, but Tim Leonard is a guy I think that's going to make just real significant moves at Southern. He's a guy that's been impressing me. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, he was a big reason why I came here. He just is. He wants to win, and that's what I want. There's always pressure. Like if people expect you to be good, that's pressure. If people expect you to be bad, that's pressure. So I would rather have the pressure of expecting to be good, expecting to win. I want to be around people that are interested in winning and give our staff what it takes to win. And then, it's expected of us to get that done. I'm not interested in being average, and I don't want to be around people that are okay with that. And Tim is that way. The Chancellor Lane here is that way. So, I think it was a good fit for me there. And they really put the pressure on me. We're excited to have me on campus and came after me pretty hard.
Compare and contrast the Horizon League and the Missouri Valley Conference. How do you see them similar? How do you see them differently?
That's a good question. I don't know enough yet about the Missouri Valley. Haven't seen enough of the teams. And it's really, with the whole portal thing now, and you look at how many players are leaving, it's hard to even know. And on top of that, I think there's 5 new coaches in the league too. And so it's really hard to compare any of that. I think, the demographics are different, more, most of the schools in the Horizon League were in cities, and there's just several schools in the Missouri Valley that you wouldn't consider big cities, and so the demographics would be one thing that's different. Other than that, there's a bit more travel in the Missouri Valley in terms of distance, and then other than that, the basketball stuff that I don't know how to compare yet, so I'll just have to wait and see.
Talk about your idea of scheduling. Here you've got to fill up a roster. You've filled up your coaching staff pretty well. You've got to move if you're a family physically, and you've got to create a schedule. How are you going to go about building the schedule? Meaning, how do you try to craft it? Because you've obviously been doing it for years.
Yeah, and it's I think when you talk coaches, probably for us the most difficult thing to do. If you've had a good program, right? People don't want to play you, or they always want to start the game. If you do a home and home, well, can you start here? Even to get a bye game, the high majors, if you're too good, they don't want to play you. If you got a good record against those schools, they don't. And so if you're a good mid-major program, it's the most difficult thing to put together. But I know in the Missouri Valley, and talking to the commissioner, and obviously our desire is to start getting multiple teams back in there, and so you can't just schedule cupcakes. You got to have a decent resume, but it's hard to put together a good resume. They want you to play quad 1 games and quad 2 games. Well, the quad 1 and quad 2 games are nearly impossible to get at home. Those schools can pretty much buy whoever they want. So it's hard to get those games. It just is. And it's hard to play a lot of them because they kind of control the strings and who they can play. And so then you end up playing a lot of pretty good mid-major teams. And it's even more difficult now to figure out whether or not that team's going to be any good next year because of all the transferring. It's now it's year to year, and everything in 2 years has changed so much. And so it makes scheduling even more difficult. And we have an MTE to get. We probably have 4 other non-conference games to get. So we have some work to do here.
Yeah, I call it the portal pandemic. It just feels like a disease that has hit college basketball. The multiplication of all of those things, NIL and free agency and the extra COVID year, it has jumbled the things up in a real bizarre way. And it's something you guys have to learn to not just survive, but navigate and embrace.
Yeah, you can say you don't like it, you can, but this is what it is, and so you better figure out how to deal with it and not complain about it. And so that's what we're working hard to do. I don't, a lot of it I don't like. I don't think it's good for the young men to be bouncing around. I think they're better off to establish roots and have a place when they leave that they can call home. So many of the kids now don't have any of that, and for every player like Marcus Damask, where it works out and looks great, probably 90% of them it doesn't. They may end up with a little more money, but they end up in a way worse basketball situation, and they're frustrated. And so many of them are chasing the immediate money and forget about, if I would stay at the place or go to be in a spot where it's good for me basketball wise above everything else and not the money, it probably gives me a better chance to earn money down the road if I want to play professionally.
Yeah, and 25% of them don't even get a job, get a position that's at the same level. 25% of them are out of basketball or at a lower division or a lower level. It just is not working. And I think tons of them aren't going to graduate or get degrees because the credits are all messed up. I think it's a recipe that isn't going to end up with a good stew.
Yeah, and I really don't know how much it's going to change because they've opened it up, and it's going to be interesting. My son just got into coaching. He's at Cedarville University, Division II school. He's an assistant there, and I just what's this going to look like when he's my age?
Yeah. No doubt. Before I let you go, you talk a lot about developing the young men and building a winning culture and all that. Who are the people, the books, whatever, that have kind of influenced? I know your father was a coach, but so maybe it's just him. Or are there other coaches, people, mentors, books that have influenced the way you go about life and coaching?
Well, you mentioned my dad. He was probably the biggest influence for sure, just in terms of the man he was, and not only the man he was, but what he developed into even later in life. I was very proud of my dad. He changed some things about his life that made things better for him and everybody around him. Lou Henson, of course, was a big influence on me and my dad, and the other people like Jimmy Collins and Mark Coombs. Those people I spent so much time with, and my dad did. They were all big influences on me, and Coach Henson was a big part of all their lives. And so, I'm one of the few guys left on his tree right now. And Mary is still around, and I still stay in touch with her. She's doing great. So, I would say those people that I mentioned. I worked for Jack Morgenthaler at SIUE. He was from Pinckneyville, went to Houston, and coached at Drake and then Western Illinois. And Jack was a big influence on me as well. And then quickly I got into head coaching at 28. So, the people that I mentioned there are probably the most influential people on me.
And speaking of SIUE, will you guys do you think that that's a thing that will happen yearly, home and home kinds of things, playing those guys?
I mean, I have no idea. We've not even discussed it to this point. It's one of those things like, Dayton would never play us at Wright State. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like a no-win situation. And, for us in SIUE, it's a no-win. But there's probably some people in the university system that would like to see it, but it's not been discussed with me, and we've not had much chance to even talk about scheduling yet. But we have to get on it.
Final question. You mentioned somewhere in one of the things I watched you talking to somebody else, this idea of the regular season championship really being a priority, and I think in today's game where everything is about March Madness, that has lost its luster for some people, but I believe the regular season battle is the thing that is the truest test. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's way more difficult to win the regular season than it is, a tournament at the end of the season. And I understand the importance of the tournament and getting to the NCAA tournament, but I mean, if we're going to coach people, then we're going to try to win the conference tournament. It's not, hey, let's wait around till or the conference season. We're not going to wait around. I mean, and the other thing is, if you do, you put yourself in a better chance to win the tournament anyway. And so, the thought process is whatever we do, we're trying to win it. And so we're putting importance on that. It's much more difficult to do without question. But I understand that you get to the point where all anybody cares about is how you do in your conference tournament. And, I mean, all you got to do is slip up one time. We did this year. And you act like it can wreck the whole season, and I just don't think it should be that way, particularly for the young men.
Appreciate your time today. Wish you all the best, and as you build that roster, we'll be paying attention. And listen, you coach Luke Martin up, all right? Like, really help him get through things.
Oh, yeah, we'll help Luke.
All right, I appreciate it. That's Scott Nagy. He's the new head coach at Southern Illinois. The Salukis are in good hands. Thanks for watching today, folks. You've been watching the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.